There you go.
Well, I just want to welcome everybody on Kennrod Live. My name is Pete Kane, and we have an exciting program for you. Kelly's on there too, along with our host, Savannah Johnson, will be taking over the first of the year. And we have Coach Hartman today. So this is, we're excited. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys having me.
Well, as Kelly has told a lot of people in the past, is we want to bring people that we can give you some insights into their profession, their career, and give you a chance to learn more about that path and that occupation. And for those interested in coaching and specifically, in the basketball arena, we have Coach Hartman. So, Coach, welcome. Give us a little idea of your background so our listeners can understand who's on the program today.
Well, it's starting to become a pretty long journey here for myself. I'm going into year 22 as a basketball coach at the Division I level. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I played college basketball at Tulane University, so two different extremes in terms of proximities and in the country. One in the north, grew up in the Northeast, but went to school in the South. And then from there, I played a couple years, which would now be called the G League. Back then, it was called the CBA. And from there, I got in my coaching career back in 1997. My first job was at Rice University under the tutelage of Willis Wilson, who is still a mentor of mine today. And from there, I've made it's 8 stops along the way. Rice on 3 different occasions, also stops at University of Richmond for 4 years, Columbia University for 4 years, where I got to know Dr. Kelly, as well as back at Rice University as associate coach, and then the University of Oklahoma for 5 years. And currently, right now, I'm serving as assistant coach at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, better known as UNLV. So excited for the journey. As I was talking to Pete and Savannah off camera, this is my third time zone in the 22 years that I've been doing this. Going from the East Coast to the Midwest to now my first foray out in the West Coast. So very excited of the journey. I've had an opportunity to coach, mentor, and also recruit a lot of really fine student athletes over the course of time. I'm getting to a point now where now I'm being asked to be godfathers to some of my kids, to some of my former players' kids, and that's kind of a fun journey to be a part of. So again, thank you guys for having me, and looking forward to the show.
Awesome. That's great. And but for a couple of things that come to mind is, on that journey of coaching, obviously you played the sport. What was your process of like, hey, I want to continue in this sport as a coach? What went through your mind, and what was the opportunity that you were looking at back 22 years ago, I guess?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that journey probably started, I would say, in high school with a lot of the mentors that I've had throughout the years. My high school coach, John Roth, who I'm still close with today, and he's still the athletic director of my former high school, Grand Island High School, right outside of Buffalo. I just always admired him, and the better I got as a player, and then I started getting recruited. And then when it was time to make a decision of where I was going to go to school, it was myself, my mom, and Coach Roth. And then fast forward to going to Tulane, probably around middle of my sophomore year is when I just started to kind of look at things in a totally different way. We had a lot of success on the court as a team back then, and around that time, I just watched our head coach Perry Clark and the assistants, kind of go through the scouting reports and go through how they were building the program, and I thought to myself, this would be something that I think I would want to do. And fortunately, I had a successful career as a player, but I think the best thing that I did was I aligned myself with people around me that I felt like were going to be able to help me um, reach my goals. Once I got done playing, the biggest thing I did was obviously get my degree. I wouldn't be in this position without having my Tulane education. But once I stopped playing and I got injured, my playing career was pretty much over. I circled back to a lot of the people that had helped me get to that point. And, an opportunity arose at Rice University. I utilized my contacts with Coach Clark, my head coach at Tulane, and just other people who had recruited me or coached against me. And fortunately, I was afforded that opportunity. And I'm so glad I was able to. And my mother always said, never burn a bridge. And when I was getting recruited, you can only choose one school, obviously. And along the way, I think I handled myself appropriately, and I constantly stayed in contact with even the coaches that recruited me were at schools where I didn't go. And so when it was time for me to, get a job in the coaching ranks, those people were able to vouch for my character and my family's character. And fortunately, again, I was afforded the opportunity at Rice back in 1997, and you know, I guess as you would say, the rest is history.
Well, you said a couple of things. I love, the mentor route. So for somebody listening that might be in school, what have you seen has been the benefit of finding mentors, and how has it helped you in your career?
I think it's just something that you have a person or persons that you can count on. Not just when you need something, but maybe just to blow off steam or even find out how that person is doing, and someone that you're constantly comfortable sharing your innermost thoughts with. And when I look at a lot of people that have done that over the course of my life, the list is a very big one. But I also have another list in which I pretty much keep privately, and those people know exactly who they are. And now, as you talk about the people that have helped me in my lifetime, I mentioned my high school coach, my college coach, Perry Clark, Lon Kruger, former Hawks coach, as a matter of fact,
Mhm.
and former University of Oklahoma and 36-year veteran. He's also someone who I've really latched onto as someone who's been a mentor to me as well. Now, what I'm doing, Pete, Savannah, and Kelly, is I'm paying it forward to a lot of the kids in which I've
Mm.
coached, and I've been a part of a lot of different mentoring programs. Within the NABC, which is the National Association of Basketball Coaches at the Division I level. We're in part of one right now where we have a mentoring program in itself, and each coach is aligned to one specific coach that they don't know. And this young man and I have developed a relationship over the last couple of months, and I can totally see, like, if I were to move forward and get my own head coaching job at some point in time, he'd be somebody that I would consider. But that's what this whole journey is about, is paying it forward. For those that have done, for me, to get me to this point. I want to continue to do that for the people in which I've coached, mentored, recruited, and just continue this never-ending cycle of mentorship, and also just being whether it be a big brother or just someone that people can count on a daily basis. And I hope that I've done that with my current and former players.
That's awesome. The building of relationships, what can you share with people that are just starting out, how important that is and what is meant to you in your career is that building of relationships?
Well, I think I think when you build a relationship, for me personally, I think it's about being genuine. I think it's about being transparent and being very genuine. One of the best stories I can tell you is, of someone on this chat right now, the relationship I have with Dr. Kelly, who is, someone who I would consider a good friend, and also, we had an opportunity to recruit her son at Columbia University when I was associate coach there. And the conversations in which we had throughout that time weren't always just about basketball. It was about mentorship. It was about, myself as a servant leader to, not only the current student athletes that I was coaching at Columbia, but what I would do for her son, if he were to come to Columbia, at that particular time. And so, when you talk about relationships, Pete, I think the biggest thing is just, being genuine and being someone who you can really take the word of at the end of the day. And you can only do that, throughout time. Um, and I don't think there's any rhyme or reason or way of going about, developing genuine relationships. I just think it just comes naturally to those in which, if you make it about others and not yourself, that's where I think, people will start to trust you, and you can build that kind of relationship and the rapport that comes along with, being on the stage in which I'm in right now as a coach and as a mentor.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll, Kelly and Savannah jump in if you have anything on the top of your minds.
Yes. Well, I love how you've shared so far about the importance of having that support system and reaching out for help. That's something I definitely relate to, being in the field of mental wellness and this profession of helping others. I definitely acknowledge sometimes the challenge that comes with asking for help. To our viewers and our folks that we're looking to mentor through Kenrod's mission, what kind of words of encouragement can you share to someone who maybe knows they need help or can feel that they are maybe struggling on their own, but there's something there that perhaps, whether it's a fear or stigma against asking for help? What kind of words of encouragement do you have to help people understand that there's nothing wrong with it, but in fact it's essential for just being a human and relating to
Yeah.
other humans?
Yeah, I think, fortunately, we're in the day and age now where mental wellness and mental health has come to the forefront, and you don't have to be embarrassed or afraid to be able to talk about, any issues or certain things that are going on, within yourself, or within your family dynamic or whatever have you. Quite frankly, I've had conversations with people, over the years, in regard to my mental health and mental well-being. My mother passed away in 2009. It really rocked me. It really devastated me, and I needed help, and I needed, ways to be able to cope with it, in the ways in which, my loving wife, she could help me. Only but so much, but I needed even more than that, and I needed to talk about it. I needed to expound on it, in terms of how I was feeling. You know, Carrying on with my everyday life, became something that, became really hard. And I guess the biggest thing I would say to your question, Savannah, is, it's okay, to not be okay, but it is okay to be able to talk to those in which can help you, get to where you're in a healthier place, within your mind and within your framework, to be able to, go on and be productive on a daily basis. We all need help, in one way or another. I know I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for the help of, the people that I talked about earlier, but also the people, that helped me, get through that time of my life, in 2009, where there was a lot of transition in my professional world and also my personal world going on. So, you know, uh, we encourage our current players now. We also have, and especially the last two universities I've worked at, Oklahoma and also UNLV, we have mental health specialists. We have people, on our campus that work closely with athletics, with our men's basketball department at both the places in which I've worked the last two jobs. And so you'll start to see that a lot more at the university level, within athletics, mental health being something that will be, a huge part of what goes on, within our daily lives moving forward, and to help our student athletes um, to not just get through, whether it be a test or the stress of a game, the stress of a season, the travel, and all the different things that happen. Social media is also a big thing. Being able to cope with, people making comments on social media, about our players, and their games, good, bad, or indifferent. How do you handle that? How do you deal with those things? And so it's always good to be able to have that release and just to be able to talk to somebody, um, you know, in regards to what's going on.
Thank you for that. I love your perspective and that kind of just reflection on the importance of that interconnectivity. And I think that that definitely plays out in the team dynamic with your basketball or just your life in general. Is if someone is off on their game, you feel that because you care about them because they're part of your team, they're part of your squad, your family. When someone is not feeling their best or maybe has too much going on in their mind, that affects everyone around them. And so I think definitely a part of that interconnectivity is being able to rely on each other and seek out that help. And
Relying on each other and relying on others that can also help get you to where you need to be, I think is really, really important. So you're 100% right in that regard.
for sure. And I like how you said the word release. And I think that kind of leads me to my next question or more to pick your brain on your idea of what resilience means to you. Because with Kennrod having our 5-year anniversary and December the 11th is our anniversary virtual event, the theme is resilience because really Kennrod's mission is all about helping empower families and students to discover their own resilience and their own strengths so they can live their best life. What kind of thoughts do you have on resilience, whether it's your own journey with it or just some reflections you can give our viewers?
Yeah, I think just, the resiliency, lies, not just within, but within, your circle and your group of people that can help, as we talk about the mental health or whether it be mentors and so forth. I think resiliency to me is just something in which, can you wake up, in the morning, and be uh, detailed? Can you wake up in the morning and, feel good about what you're doing? Even though you might not be where you want to be in life, if you have a goal and you have a journey and you want to get to that particular point in your life, can you really find, something within once you wake up every single morning, to say, you know, I'm going to do, this in order to get to where I really want to go. I want to be a head coach. And I'm 22 years in. I've had head coaching interviews and I've had head coaching potential opportunities in which I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to take a job or not take a job. And I'm thinking about my family in that regard. But I started out, making a very low salary, with a family. And now I'm at a point where I can kind of pick and choose certain places in which I want to work. And a lot of that is because of the resiliency over the last 22 years and a lot of the pitfalls that have come, professionally and personally, throughout my time. There were times in which I didn't want to wake up and go to, work or make a trip or when, as I mentioned earlier, when my mother passed, I just wanted just to stay in bed and sulk and cry. But I realized, what, I other people are relying on me, not just my immediate family, but my student athletes, the university in which I work at. And so, the word resiliency, in my opinion, is just, can you pick yourself off the mat, when things are going bad, or even when things, start getting good, can you find some motivation, within yourself to continue to, fight for, where you want to go in life and, how you can serve others.
As I listened to you, Carlin, I couldn't help but think about the classic and one of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mhm.
Several things that you've said, whether it be, your circle of influence or not building a bridge or not burning a bridge. Um, the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People just really rang out to me. Is there an author or authors that you often go to when you need just that extra push or just a word to read to give you that motivation?
I haven't really been a big reader. I wish I had been over time. I've just been constantly am going, 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 and I need to do a little bit better job of doing that. One of the books that I have read, though, the most recent book I read, it was Jay Billis, who is a college basketball analyst for ESPN. He wrote a book called Toughness, and there were so many nuggets within that book that I loved. That not only dealt with the actual word itself, toughness, and when you're in athletics, you're constantly preaching your guys being tougher than the person or the opponent right across from you. But there are a lot of things within that book that I thought, really resonated with me and really helped, the mental aspect of things, if you will, Savannah, yeah, in that regard. And I'll go back to that book sometimes and I'll just refer to a few things. And, I just thought, that was one of the things in which I really uh, liked about the book was not just the actual word toughness, but also the things that came along with the toughness. So again, whether it be the mental aspect, whether it be the physical aspect, and so forth. And I've actually read more memoirs than I've had just read like self-help books. I read the memoir of Muhammad Ali, um, which was a wonderful book. Also, I'm in the midst of reading Barack Obama's book as well. So I don't have a specific author for
No,
you,
that's fine. That's
but
fine. I mean,
you're
I
great.
just, for you to even highlight those that are that you're reading now and that you're interested in, I think is important because we do promote education, which you have done, and talking about how critical it was for you to obtain your degree.
Yep.
And we just want that to resonate with our students as well. Is that it's one thing to be able to play sports and to do it well, but also it's really really important to have that education behind you to be able to explore and to discover new things. So thank you so much for sharing that. Just thinking about our students who may be listening right now,
Mhm.
if you could reflect on your younger days as an athlete, what were those things that prepared you for basketball at the high school and collegiate level and even beyond, and what are some of those things that you still utilize today, although not playing but also in your coaching field?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think when I was growing up in Western New York, which is a football slash hockey area, not as much of a basketball hotbed as it is in those other two sports that I mentioned. Um, it was how can I say challenging at times to get noticed. For the few players that we did have coming out that had big notoriety over the years, guys like Keith Robinson, Kristen Leitner, we had a plethora of guys, and but they were always kind of spread out throughout the course of the long history of basketball in Buffalo, which is I think good, but I don't think it gets as much notoriety and so forth. But to answer your question, I would use a lot of those players. I played in the era where Christian Laettner, who went on to Duke and had a lot of success, and I used them as motivation. We were in the same conference in the same league, so anytime I would see him work out, or I would try to implement or duplicate, a lot of the things in which, a guy like that or some of the older guys that were coming before me were doing, because I wanted, to have those same opportunities. Now, I wasn't quite good enough to go to Duke. Going to Tulane wasn't a bad consolation prize at the end of the day. But I would just say, find, who and what would be your motivation, to the kids. If there's a player in the area in which has a lot of not even accolades or is really good, can you match that person? Or if there's someone who is from your area that has gone on to play at the highest level, and you want to be, not maybe not that type of player, but you want to have that same opportunity. What are you gonna do within yourself, to help get you there? Who are you going to utilize in your support system, that can help you achieve your goals? I surrounded myself with people that love basketball, like my high school coach, like my best friends, that I played high school basketball with. We were constantly challenging each other on a daily basis. Whether it be one on one or if we only had four of us, we play 2-on-2. I went to camps. Nowadays kids don't go to as many camps. They have more individual workouts with trainers and so forth. But back then, when we were going to camps, you were always pitting yourself against, some really good players from not just your region, but also other parts of whether it be the Northeast or throughout the country. And so the challenges back then are a lot different than they were now. Not saying that now it's not as challenging, but I was always motivated, by just being as great as I could be, being the best player in my high school, leading us to the championship, which we fell short, but we came close. And obviously, playing college basketball. I really wanted to be a Division I player. By my sophomore year, when I got to be, pretty decent as a player, I felt like, okay, well, I might have a shot at, going on to play some level. And the worst case scenario, I thought I could, maybe play locally at, one of the four schools that were in the area, Niagara University or Canisius or St. Bonaventure. The ultimate goal was to play at Syracuse, but, I fell short of that one, which is fine. And I just worked my tail off, and I just constantly worked on my craft. And every day I woke up with a sense of motivation to be the best that I could be. And when I had the shot at visiting Tulane, it was the first time I had seen palm trees. It was the first time that I went to a place where in March where it was not 40 degrees, and I saw how beautiful the campus was, and I said to myself, "This is a place where I feel like I can go to school." So I took that risk, and I bet on myself, and fortunately, I came out of there, as one of the top scorers and inducted into the Hall of Fame at Tulane, along with my teammates. So I guess the biggest motivation, back then was just self motivation more than anything. It's just always wanting to be, more than what I could be, and whether or not that was, using another player that I was going against or someone who was already in the NBA at the time. I just always wanted to get to that level and get to that point, and nothing else really distracted me. I always made sure, and my mother always made sure academically, I was in good standing in order to be able to try to
Mhm.
achieve those goals. And another big goal for mine was to make sure that my mother didn't have to pay for college. And that was getting a scholarship. And though it wasn't an academic scholarship, getting an athletic scholarship with no debt, after I graduated is something that I don't think, anyone who's in high school or middle school right now listening to this call probably doesn't even understand what that means. They don't even understand what debt is. And, for someone who's not a student athlete that has gone to college, if you haven't, received a full ride academically or athletically, you're going to have to pay something back to the school. And Kelly, as you well know, when we were talking to you guys, the numbers I was throwing around to you at
Oh
that
yeah.
week, was mind blowing to you. But that being said, having an opportunity to get a scholarship was my motivation, and fortunately, I was able to achieve a lot of my goals.
Awesome. What about, Coach? When you've had to sacrifice quite a bit moving around the country with your family,
Yeah.
speak to that part of it and the that delayed gratification or whatever you had to do that people may have to be faced with.
Yeah. When I was first starting out, I was single and by myself, and so I could move around a lot more freely. By my fifth year in coaching is when I was married, getting ready to get our family going and so forth. And that's when it wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about, hey, I can take this job and I can just move freely. I had to think about, the other people in my household, my wife and my kids. And, so as time has gone on, every move in which we've made has been strategic. Um, some moves my family has um, supported me on more than others. The move from Columbia to Rice was not one that was well received, Kelly. I'll tell you that right now. But I knew it was also an opportunity for me to continue the trajectory in which I felt like I needed to go. in order to get to where we want to go. And fortunately, it did pay off after we left Columbia, which is a place that we loved, to go to Rice University, go back to Rice University, and then from there to get the big break and be at the University of Oklahoma for a time, and which was wonderful, and we really enjoyed ourselves. And to now be at another historic basketball program in the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, is just a blessing in itself. And at a time in Oklahoma, we get that break. We get the opportunity. Just come off the Final Four run with Buddy Hield, got a chance to coach Trey Young and some other guys that have gone on to play in the NBA, and that journey in itself has been really rewarding. Just the amount of guys in which we've been able to coach, and I've been able to coach, that have gone on to play at that next level beyond ours in the NBA. And in 22 years, and so many players, I think one of the messages that I would want to leave here today to make sure that kids understand is, how hard it is to get to the NBA. We had a player last year by the name of Austin Reeves, who's currently on the Los Angeles Lakers. And last night was his opportunity, and he debuted last night, which was great. And he's, for me personally, the eighth guy that I've coached that has gone on to play in the NBA. And if you do the math, that's less than one player a year that has gone to play in the NBA. And it's hard enough just to get to college and get a scholarship to play in college, or to be a college student athlete, whether it be Patriot League or Ivy League, that does not have athletic scholarships. Um, the message in that is, you know, have your goals and have your dreams, and if you want to, try to get to the NBA, obviously, more power to everybody who can make it. However, the odds are pretty much not stacked against you, but it's really, really tough. And again, 8 players in 22 years for myself. And even, if you look at a coach like John Calipari, who they turn out NBA players a lot, he's had more players that have not made the NBA than have gone on to the NBA. So the educational piece is extremely important. I think the other thing that's really important when you become a student athlete, is just enjoying the process, enjoying the journey, enjoying where you are in that time and place. Every level of sports, or every level, sport I coach, basketball, it gets a little bit more business-like. Whether it be, if you're in middle school and you go to high school, it might be a little bit more business-like. And then you go from high school to college, it definitely becomes more business-like. And then if you get to the professional level, it is a business, and um, we tell our guys often, even right now, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, enjoy each other's company, enjoy, you know, the fact that, you have not only this free education, but you get to, eat for free, sleep in a comfortable place for free, fly charter flights, and not have to walk through an airport, which doesn't happen for a lot of people. It is a very rewarding thing to be a college student athlete, but it also, reality at some point in time will set in. And for those few that do go on to play professionally, that is great, but it's a very, very small number. We found out the other day, a scout came to one of our practices, and in the 75-year history of the NBA, you, there has only been 4,300 players that have played in the NBA in 75 years.
Small amount.
You would think it'd be a lot more, but that is
Yeah.
a small number in 75 years. So again,
Wow.
education. Get your
Education.
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 Get your
Absolutely.
education.
When you think about those 8 players, Carlin, who you have seen to move forward in the NBA, is there a common trait or traits that stand out to you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think all their work ethics, let me think, 6 of them were undrafted, and 2 of them were drafted. Trey Young, Orion Green. The other 6 were, excuse me, 3 of them were drafted, 5 were not drafted. And of all those guys, especially the undrafted ones, they were guys that kind of grinded through um, the process and were able to get noticed through um, different combines or different leagues. Some had to go to Europe to come back to the NBA. Some had to go through the minor leagues of the G League to get a look. I think the common denominator for all those guys were they were great workers, they had great attitudes, and they were hungry, for success. And the other thing that I think, for all those guys that were undrafted were that, they cared about winning. They cared about the team. They cared about, not just their journey, obviously, because they were obviously good enough to be one of the 4,300 players that played in the NBA. But, they cared about, their teammates. They cared about, and they wore the pride of the school, on their chest. And it really meant something to them. So I think the common thread, and the biggest denominator was, just the work ethic. And, um, when you get to that point, you always, want everyone to be able to realize their goals and dreams, but not everybody can make it, to that particular level. But you're also professional in something other than sports. That's the old NCAA model, and that's really true. Once you leave, and hopefully you have a degree, you'll be a pro in whatever walk of life that you end up accomplishing. So, you know, if it's not the NBA, or you will play in Europe, or you just go right into the private sector, you know, as long as you've gotten your degree and you've enjoyed the journey and gotten something out of it, and you've met a lot of people along the way, you know, um, that education and that scholarship was well worth it.
Let me tell you, I love sports. And now that we're talking to you, it's game day, right? You, as the coach, what are you saying in the locker room? How do you get the team fired up? Give us a game day
Yes.
locker room perspective.
Well, you don't want the whole thing, because we
I can see that. That's
can't censor a lot of the stuff that I say.
That's fair.
But we always go over the scouting report. We're always talking about the opponent in which we play, but we always go back to making it about what we need to do. If we take care of our responsibilities, if we take care of the things in which we've taught, over the course of the few days that we've gone over the scouting report of that particular team that we're going to face, then we should be fine. We got to play hard. We got to execute offensively. We have to, be the toughest team defensively, and we have to help each other. We have to talk. We have to communicate. You know, do all those things that teams do. You know, of course, we're going to have individual guys are going to have different skill sets, and some guys are going to be better scorers or better shooters, better passers, ball handlers than others. And so the ones that are deficient in the other areas, they got to do their jobs. We remind them of that constantly. If you're an elite rebounder, go get every rebound. If you're an elite,
What about Coach? Go ahead. It broke up. I thought you were finished. Go ahead, finish up.
oh, no, just do your jobs essentially. And
Yeah.
so I think the biggest piece that we would just always say is, hey, let's do our jobs. Just do your jobs, and we'll be fine. In that regard.
How do you handle discipline in your role as a coach?
Yeah, I think it's just constant communication with the guys. We have so much support, at the university level, with tutors, with academic coordinators, with you know video coordinators. We just have so many people in and around that are there for our student athletes. That when we have an expectation that they don't meet, um, then we'll make sure we address it when it needs to be addressed. And when you're on scholarship, though you're not working a 9 to 5 job, your job is, to uphold, your end of the bargain that you sign, for, every single year, when your scholarship is renewed, and that's for us, that's, you know, being as good of a student as you can possibly be. attending every single class, being on time, being prompt. Don't waste people's time, by showing up late. Communicate if you are going to be late, and so forth. And, you know, I think a lot of times, putting out, 100 or 10, 15, however many rules that you have, sometimes can be counterproductive. But I think if you just put, like, say, two things: be a good teammate, don't be a jerk. You know, you know, then you can pretty much kind of go, where you want to, with those things. Be on time.
Yeah.
Be prompt. You know, be in the first three rows of class. When you go to class and so forth. And I think, the discipline comes from, making sure that you're recruiting the right people, that are going to adhere to a lot of the things in which you believe as a coach. And, that's why I say, when we're recruiting, we're always looking for guys that, again, I mentioned it earlier, have great attitudes, are workers, want to be, at the universities, in which we coach at and are, employed by. So, it's up to us in our jobs to make sure that the discipline that comes along with, you know, um, the everyday, you know, life of a college student athlete, and maybe it's self-discipline. Maybe it's not something in which, we have to discipline them for, because we know, what's in their heart. We know what they're capable of as people. And so if we have the right people in our program, then the negative discipline doesn't have to come. We hope that, they'll be, disciplined in themselves and detailed within themselves in order to do the things in which we believe in as a staff.
Mm.
I love that. Yeah, my in marching band, that was my team. It was be on time, be on task. Simple as that. Still live by it to this day. And so, tell me a little bit about the mentorship that you've experienced. Some words that you've lived by that have made an impact on you.
Oh man, I mean, so many guys, so many, women. I mean, mentorship. I mean, I don't know if it has to be just somebody in my particular field. My mom was a mentor, quite frankly. The 36 years that I was alive, she was wonderful, to me. Um, you know, when she wasn't around, I had my aunts and my uncles, as well. Um, Words to live by, from the mentors. I've learned, from so many, people throughout the years. Um, I can't really, pinpoint, one particular phrase or one particular comment, but the one thing that I have, learned, Lon Kruger, when I got the job back in 2015, he said, always make it about others. Always
Mm.
make it about others, so that, when you look back on your time and you look back on your journey, you'll feel really good and you'll feel really confident and comfortable that you've done the best that you can, because you didn't make it about yourself. You made it about other people. And what does that mean? Maybe that has a different meaning for everybody. For me personally, that message means, I'm not bigger than the group or the team. You know, if a player is struggling, and over time that's happened quite a bit, that's when the mentorship kicks in. The mentorship kicks in, when it's good or bad, quite frankly. The mentorship kicks in, for me personally, by the way I carry myself on a daily basis, so that these young men can see, somebody who um, has a wife, loves his wife, loves his kids. Because maybe you don't have that at home. Maybe you grew up in a single parent, maybe you grew up in a foster home, and maybe you've gone through the system and so forth. So mentorship, maybe I'm what looks like a mentor to that person. And so it's really important for me to carry myself in a particular way on a daily basis. And I can say, that I'm proud of that, because I was raised, the right way, by my mother, and through, my aunts and uncles, and all the support system which I've had. And in the professional setting, I mentioned the people, earlier, with Coach Kruger and Coach Wilson and Coach Clark and Coach Roth, and, those are people that come to mind, and so many others, throughout the journey that I haven't mentioned that, quite frankly, I know I wouldn't be where I am today, without them and their belief in me. Um, and I just want to just continue to pay it forward. And I'll just kind of go off task a little bit here. When you mentioned this to me, Kelly, and you mentioned what you were doing, with Kennrod, um, I was excited, for you because I know of your journey and the things in which you've gone through, over time. And, you know, I would have not missed an opportunity to do this um, Zoom, even if I were in Europe right now, I would have gotten on
Thank
the thing
you.
3 in the morning, uh, because I understand the importance of it. Because if it just if this conversation touches one person,
Absolutely.
then we've done a good thing this morning,
Yes.
you know.
Absolutely.
And you know, somebody out there is going to have an epiphany, and maybe they want to be a college coach, or they want to be a college basketball player, or they want to be a professional in something other than sports, like we talked about earlier. So there's a lot of different messages that come across, and hopefully that answers your question. It's kind of a long-winded way of getting around that question that you asked me about 5 minutes ago, Savannah.
Oh, oh, please keep going. I am so here for it. I'm like trying not to cry. I'm like, so wholesome. I love it.
Well, we are at the point of winding down because we want to respect your time, Coach Hartman. And we just are so appreciative of having you join us this morning. I think definitely the things that have been communicated will be inspiring to someone out there and encourage them to stay focused on their goals. And so, with that, I just want to ask you, is there a goal that you would like to share that's maybe a short term or a long term goal that you've had in your 22 years of coaching?
Long-term goal would be personally to be a head coach, run my own program. Would love to have the opportunity to do that. But I also look at it and say to myself, if I am not afforded the opportunity to do that, I'm not going to look back and say to myself that this was a failed career. I mean, I'll look back at a lot of the student athletes in which I've coached and been a part of and really appreciate the journey, because a lot of people can't do and have a platform to do what I do on a daily basis. So I am very blessed, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I won't compromise on just taking any head coaching job just for the sake of it. If it does happen, when it happens, it'll be the right one. Short-term goal professionally would be, to get UNLV back to where it was when I was in high school and college, and it was the number one program that all the kids wanted to go to, and it was a really exciting place, an exciting time, and our fan base is crazy. They're ready for it. They're excited for it. Um, Long-term personal goal would just be to continue to be, you know, a great husband to my wife, and a good father to my kids. And I think the short term be probably be the same thing. Just to continue to see my family prosper. Very proud of my family. I'm very proud that of all the stops in which we made in my um, game room slash man cave at home, which I have earned that over the
You
years.
have earned that.
I have a flag of every place in which I've coached, and a flag of every place in which my kids have gone to school that I have up. And my wife graduated from the University of Richmond, place that I work. Um, she got her master's from Columbia University. She have another place that I work, and my three daughters all graduated from the University of Oklahoma. And right now, I have a daughter who's in the Army Reserves, who I'm very proud of.
Mm,
We have a
wow.
flag of that. I have another daughter who's at VCU. right now, doing her sports management master's. Very proud of her in that regard. And our oldest daughter is living in Los Angeles, and she's doing a lot of special things. And I got a 14-year-old budding, rising basketball player who wants to be better than his dad. And I tell him to go for it every single day. So, uh, so those are the short and long term goals for my family. And as for my wife, she's just the rock, and she's the best. So.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Pete, did you have any comments or questions before we prepare to close?
Yeah, I know we got another guest, but I like the Richmond Spiders. I'm from Richmond, so my wife went to VCU, so I can.
Oh goodness, my
get a
goodness!
VCU shout out.
It's just.
Yep, and several of my friends went to Richmond. I went to Virginia Tech, so we didn't embrace Richmond as much, but we certainly respected what they did in athletics. And geez, they had some good years there.
Yeah.
Johnny Newman, did you ever know of him at Richmond?
Run across Johnny on several occasions. Obviously, he played, and he was a little bit older than me. But when I coached there, he came around quite often, and his son was a good player, and he ended up going to Clemson. But definitely ran into Johnny on several occasions. And a lot of really good Spiders throughout the years that were very influential to the program's success in the past, and also currently in the present tense as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Coach. Kelly, why don't you talk about our next month's guest for those listeners that tune in every month?
Sure. Thank you so much, Pete. And we are excited to let everyone know that our next guest will be joining us on Wednesday, November the 17th, Iman Blow. Iman is a fencing athlete, and wow, how interesting it's going to be. It's one of those areas of sports that we don't often hear about, but definitely it's one that's recognized around the world. And so we're glad that Iman is going to join us. So please tune in and ask your family and friends to do so as well. Also, I want to echo Savannah and highlight our 5th year anniversary fundraising event that's coming up on Saturday, December the 11th at 4:00 p.m. We're going to have a wonderful afternoon for you. We've got special guests. We have entertainment. We're making sure that everyone is able to remain safe. So we're doing it virtually. Going to learn much more about Kennrod and where we are right now, as well as where we're headed in the future. So we hope that you can join us. If you're interested, feel free to go on our website, click on the 5th anniversary tab, and you can purchase tickets there. Thank you all so much. Coach Hartman, it was such a joy. Such a joy having you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best season this year. I feel like the community out there in Las Vegas is going to be so fired up from beginning to end, because I'm just going to go ahead and just claim that it's going to be an awesome season.
I like hearing that. I love hearing that.
I'll go ahead and put that energy out there. Yeah. We'll be watching you, Coach. We'll be watching you.
Well, Pete and Savannah, it was a pleasure meeting you. Kelly, it's good seeing you as always. And once again, thank you guys for having me on this platform. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you again, Pete and Savannah. Take care. See you next time.
Real pleasure. All right. Y'all be good.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.